in verse 27. Howbeit we know this man whence he is. But when Christ cometh, no man knoweth whence he is. And a pause there, because that's worth unpacking. There's an irony here when it says, we know this guy. I mean, he's from Nazareth. And no good thing can come from Nazareth, right, Nathaniel? This is some Galilean miracle worker, healer, preacher. But Messiah? No, he can't be, because we know too much about him. And the Messiah, as they say here, nobody knows where he's going to come from. This is kind of another layer of the no man is prophet in his own country, because they think they know him, when in reality they don't. But they confine him to their own assumptions. And no, the real Messiah is going to kind of come out of nowhere and throw off the Roman yoke and free us all. He's going to kind of come charging in, white knight on this white stallion. And this guy, no, he's just a carpenter's kid. We know too much about him for him to be the Messiah. Now, again, think about the condescending Christ. On the one hand, what they're describing here of no man knoweth whence he is, this is this emphasis on the ineffable, that God could not possibly be known. The Messiah is untouchable. He's going to come out of nowhere. And sadly, I think sometimes we assume that that's true of God too. That God is unknowable and unapproachable and inexplicable and ineffable. And while that's partially true, that's only half the contrary. That's the high Christology. That's the infinite that fills us with awe. But this is the Word made flesh when Jesus came down to be among us. He came down to prove that God is approachable, that you can come to know me as a Messiah who wanders around Galilee with you. That's amazing. There's this interesting rhetorical term called apophasis. And apophasis is sometimes used in debate. It's often used in like mudslinging political campaigns, because it allows you to say things and still deny that you ever said them. It's kind of genius. Apophasis is kind of like this. When you say about your opponent, oh, I would never call you dishonest, at least not publicly, and I certainly don't want to bring up your troubled past. Let's just stick with the tasks at hand and let's argue policy issues, shall we? Now, did you catch what the person just did? What did they just said without saying it? I'm not trying to call you dishonest. But what did you just hint at? The man's dishonesty. And I'm not going to bring up your sordid past. You just brought it up by saying you weren't going to bring it up. I know, that's apophasis for you. It's amazing. I still have plausible deniability. I never said those things when I said I wasn't going to say them. Well, if that's debate or if that's rhetoric, turn it to theology, because there is something called apophatic theology, and it's still based on that idea of apophasis. And what apophatic theology is God is so distant and so beyond our mortal comprehension that we cannot describe him in any way. The only way we can describe him, the only way we can say what he is by saying what he isn't. In other words, if I can say this about him, then it can't apply to God, because God's better than that. He's bigger than that. And so it's kind of this negative, kind of fill the negative space. And here's all these things I can say. God is far superior, above and beyond any of that. It's kind of hard to wrap our heads around, but that has prevailed in a lot of human history, just assuming that God can't be understood, so why even try? Well, Jesus came to earth so we could not only try but succeed, that we could come to know both the Father and the Son as we come to know Jesus Christ and his gospel. It's not apophatic theology. Yes, he's ineffable, but he's also approachable. Yes, he's infinite, but he desires to be intimate in a covenant relationship with us. That's who Jesus is. So I had to pause there on that verse, because what they're saying is so interesting. We know Jesus, when in reality they didn't. We can't know the Messiah, when in reality they could. He's standing right in front of you, the person you think you know.